in 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome back everybody. Jeff Rick here from Work 20XX. We're back at Running Remote in this great collaboration with Liam and Igor and Anna and the team. And we're excited to be back because all the lessons that they talk about here at Running Remote, even if you're not fully remote or even hybrid, are all great management leadership lessons that you can apply regardless of what type of organization you have. And we're excited to have our next guest. He's Vini Coelho. He is the VP People and Culture from Time Doctor. Vini, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Time Doctor is one of the big forces behind Running Remote. For the people that aren't familiar, what's Time Doctor all about?
To make it simple, Time Doctor is a workforce analytics tool that helps you bridge trust between your remote employees and your managers, gives you visibility, and it both ways, right? It gives you visibility to management, it gives you visibility as an employee, where you're spending your time, what you're focusing at, and how you can get better at work. So
it sounds like it's time, and Doctor, you're watching it close. I could see where people might misperceive and be a little scared that say, hey, is this a surveillance application or is this a productivity application? Is this good for me, bad for me? I imagine that might be a concern for some folks.
It is, it can be a concern for some folks, but also it's how the company uses the tool, right? We instruct companies, we train them, and we keep talking to them to say, you can use this in the best way possible, right? Which is, how can you empower your employees to work better? And how can you empower your managers to not have to worry about those performance issues? And also for you to better understand how people work, right? Because it's not that you can manage it any different in an office environment, but in a remote environment, you can only look at the outputs, right? You can only see what outcomes are happening.
Right.
And with the tool, we can better understand how much time can people are spending into specific activities, into specific tasks. And as a leader, as a manager, you can start changing that. You can see who your top performers are, and you can help your lower performers to come up as well. So at the end of the day, it's a performance tool, but it's the way that the management is going to use the tool that it makes it special, or it can become a concern. Yeah.
Right. And do the employees use it for their own benefit? We just were listening to the keynote from Zapier, and he's talking about, what did I do this week? And did I do the things that I intended to when I started out the week? And as I'm setting up next week, this is all really valuable information. So do people use it for themselves as well as for the boss keeping a track on things?
Absolutely. And this is the way that we internally use the tool is on my team. I don't track anything they do. Is I use them and they use it on their own. We set up our tasks, we set up the activities. They will do it, they will focus on it. And what we'll do is that we review it together and understand, hey, this month or this quarter, you spend too much time in specific operational tasks. Let's get you something different. Let's get you a different challenge here. So yeah, it's a great tool for freelancers as well to track their own time. So yeah, it's both ways.
What are some of the surprises that come out when people put it in for the first time and weren't really necessarily paying attention to where they're dividing their time and their effort, and all of a sudden they're like, whoa, this wasn't what I expected?
The biggest one, and for me it was when I first used it many years ago, how much time I am wasting into doing things or repetitive things, and now with AI even more so, that I don't have to do it. Like, I'm spending a lot of time just juggling into very specific small things that if I put an effort to focus on it, let's say first thing in the morning when I start, I'll reduce that from an hour and a half a day to 15 minutes because I'm not just like trying to fit it and squeeze in.
Right.
It made me understand that time management, it's actually a science and a bit of an art as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Context switching is just brutal. Brutal for productivity. And I think the Atlassian report last year, they said like 25% of our time is spent searching for information, which is unfortunately not surprising.
It is, yeah.
So let's talk about your role. So you're in charge of people and culture.
Yes.
You got people distributed, I think it's 40 some odd countries.
40 countries at this point, yeah.
So, a lot of different cultures. How many people in the company?
140.
So that's about what, 3 per country or 4 on average in round numbers?
Yeah.
A lot of different cultures. So how do you build culture with so many different cultures distributed all around the world in 24 different time zones?
There's so many ways you can do that, and there's so different perspectives you can find. To me, the first one, the most important is, before you even think about building culture, you need to know the people you work with. You need to spend time with them. So when I joined the company had about 120 people when I joined. The first thing I did, I sat down and I personally talked to every single person. I'm like, this is not HR giving you feedback. This is not people and culture. This is, who are you?
Right.
Why do you like being here? What are the challenges you have? This is not me reporting back to your manager. This is me getting to know you.
And how receptive were they? You're some new guy coming in. They don't know you from Adam.
Everybody was freaking out. But the way I did it is that I kept doing that for 3 years. So every year, and now my people and culture team, right? Everyone on the team, we do it. At least twice a year, we proactively reach out to people and ask them, how are you doing? How is everything? How is your relationship with your manager going? What are the roadblocks you have? This is not for me, like, this is not about give me feedback about the company. We have other mechanisms for that. This is about, I really want to get to know you. So this is how you start, because HR doesn't build culture. We actually help distribute it. We help cascade it down. We should be the ones creating the system for that to exist. Culture starts at the top of the company, at ownership management, but it lives within all realms of the company. HR is the one that's going to build the bridges if HR is doing the right work.
And so how do you describe the relationship? Some people talk about teams, some people talk about family, some people say, no, work is definitely not a family. Family doesn't lay off family.
Absolutely.
So how do you frame the relationship with the individuals within the company and their relationship with the company?
Again, different ways that you can put it. The way I see it, think about a sports team, right? We're all colleagues, we're all together in this. We all have the same goal. And if we don't, let's align why we don't, right? Not a family. Absolutely not. No.
Right.
Family is a different thing. Super important. It has its own pedestal, its own place, right? This is more like a sports team. This is something that we chose to do together, right? We signed up for this. And every day as we commit, as you clock into work, right?
Right.
As you show up to work,
Right.
you commit to do it. And it's about that commitment level, right? So I'm not trying to see if you're more committed than the other person. What I'm trying to see is, do we have the same agreement? Are we on the same page?
Right. And a really important part of teams, all teams, is people don't do it usually for the boss. They do it for their teammates.
Yeah.
And people will do more for their teammates than they even will for themselves. So what are some of the things that you do to strengthen that relationship between the team members? Because again, they're all distributed. They're not sitting with each other, right?
Yeah, I think we can think of company-wide initiatives. So I do have someone which is a people experience specialist, or used to be more focused on engagement, but now the experience side. We're constantly communicating. We're constantly making people talk to each other through silly things and more important activities. People got used to see that HR, people in culture, time doctor, people got used to see that we're always there. Doesn't matter where you're gonna see someone from the team there, right? So that's the first thing. The second is, as a distributed company, we don't want silos, but we understand that they're going to have some sort of silos. So within those tight-knit, close communities, is how do you make sure that they get that experience that they have together? Give an example, specific country that we have 30 people working there. They are their own little community. So how do I start bringing people from other areas together to them and start doing activities, right? So we put a focus on team level building. So engineers, team building, or product managers, marketing teams, salespeople, right? And then we cross-functionally try to do that as well. So there is a conscious effort of always proactively talking to people.
Yeah.
So we basically know that we have to steer the conversation as HR. It's part of the job when it is that level distributed, and we are mostly async, but we're not like companies that have zero meetings, right? We do have sequence of meetings. We do get together on call. We are synced together. It's a huge challenge to do it, but it's part of the way we've built our culture. It's not to say that it's wrong to do it 100% async or 100% sync, but the way we found that our culture will be built better is that we cascade it down remotely and async, but we implement it, we check with people sync. So like we get with them on a call, we look at their faces, and really like meaningfully engage.
Right. And you've talked about being culture first. So clearly you've made a big investment and you're very intentional at all these steps and processes that you guys put into place to make sure that's out front. And how does that impact in terms of the engagement of the company when you do surveys and do get a feel for people's engagement? Because one of the things I think is the key is, can you get marginal effort out of people? Are they bought in and are they pulling hard, or are they just pulling? And the difference there can be giant.
It is. From experience and from what I see at Time Doctor, I would say Time Doctor has been my lab as well, because I've been testing so many things there, and it's been a lot of fun. It's a fun ride, and you have to be intentional about what you set up and what you propose yourself to do, because then that's the only way that others will believe you and they kind of follow your lead, right?
Right.
So the biggest way we found over the years that will make sure people understand what we're trying to do is that we keep everything as transparent as possible. This is why the documentation process and using the tools or that system, it works, right? We have a cadence of, I communicate here, I store here, I act here, I deliver here, right? So something that I spoke last year running remote about in a panel, a system that it's a cycle, right? It's cyclical. It keeps happening for everything.
Right.
Because then it builds that sense of continuity, routine. Routine is hard when you work remotely, right? Because you can just stop what you're doing and then take a break and then come back and then do something else, right? It's part of the gig. Routine is important, but instead of a time routine, a process routine. So people get used and they feel comfortable, they feel more at ease about work, right? That's when I open up, that's when I get them loose enough to talk about engagement. That's when I get them loose enough to really get them to speak their truth about things that are uncomfortable to them, right? And I think that it's a bit of a, it's not easy, right?
Right.
But with the right intent, with the right effort, eventually we got it wrong so many times that we got it right. So it's a system, but yeah.
So another topic that's come up here is careers and career progression. And at the same time, a lot of the organizations here are relatively flat. There's not a lot of layers and hierarchies from which to move up. How do you kind of help manage that for people when you've got high performing folks, they want to develop and grow their careers, but maybe there isn't the traditional, step up through 27 layers of management in terms of a career progression? How are you thinking of career progression? How are you helping your people think about growing, developing, changing? Not necessarily hierarchical, but more broader and developing.
Absolutely. This is so important, right? We are at a crossroads in time that people still come from the environment that if you need to grow, if you're going to grow, you're going to grow vertically and most likely into management, right?
Right.
People management and vertical growth is what matters because that's the reality we came from. This is how work relations happened for the past 70, 80 years. We're now seeing that, especially with the advent of AI and everything happening, it's different, right? And organizations we at Time Doctor as well, we are becoming flatter. We're not adding as many people as we used to for functions. We are empowering our current people to do more with technology, right? So the first thing we do is to be transparent about it. Hey, the way you're going to growth is the way that makes sense to you. Do you want to believe and do you think that vertical growth is the only growth? It might not be possible here. Being transparent. And it's hard,
right?
Because I'm not saying, hey, that's what you want, so I'm going to fire you. No, that's what you want. Let me show you a different thing. So how do you get more responsibilities? Lateral growth, right? So I work in support, right? I am a product specialist. So how can I be closer to product? How can I be closer to customer success? How can I do things that will deepen the influence I have or the reach that I have in the company so I become more relevant in that? And that opens up opportunities. I learn more about it. And then there's a different role. So yeah, you might change departments or you might change the scope of the role, kind of staying in the same line, but with compensation growth, with your ability to influence the business as well, becoming more strategic. but you're not going to grow from a coordinator to a manager to a director necessarily. Not everyone is going to go through that experience.
Right, right.
And we are transparent. We have to be.
Right. So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about your background, because you come at this from, I don't know, different place, non-traditional place, different place,
Yeah.
and that's hospitality, which is really interesting, because when I first started talking about future work and we started talking about, different types of activities that need different types of resources, I started thinking, wow, this kind of sounds like a nice resort hotel. I wonder if that's why they have offsites at nice places that have all these resources.
Yeah.
And you come from that world. What type of learning do you get to bring over, and what do you see and leverage that you learned back in your hospitality days to really help build better cultures in this organization?
Honestly, everything. It's an everything thing. But let me tell you what's the most important about it. In hospitality, well, I went to a hotel school, and I also studied culinary. I wanted to be a chef. I wanted to have my own restaurant and have Michelin stars and all that. And I did have the experience to work in the industry, and it was lovely, but I wanted more. Because what I realized is the key thing that was the bridge between that role to the role I have today is that I like taking care of people. If you're going to be good at HR, if you're going to be meaningful at HR, you don't love paperwork, you love people. It's about the people. So that's where it starts. So to me is when I was a sommelier at a 2 Michelin star restaurant back in many, many years ago, what was my goal? Was to serve the best experience to the guests, right? Now as an HR professional, is to allow people to be their better selves in their work environment. It's to allow them to build a career in the company. It's to allow them to build, no one nowadays, or very rarely, is going to stay 20 years in a company. We're not on that age anymore.
Right.
But I want your passage here, your time, be it a year or 10, so you can grow, right? So you can feel at ease, so you can feel that you belong somewhere, that you can be yourself. And to me, honestly, if HR is not doing that, you don't need hospitality background to do it. But if you're not doing that, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I love that. A place to grow, and also just the recognition and the acknowledgement that they are probably not, it's probably not their last job, just as pure statistics, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's probably not their last job, but that's okay.
Yep.
And give them the conditions to grow. I think that is awesome. Well, Vinny, super excited to sit down with you. Thanks for bringing us back a second year in a row here at
Absolutely.
Running the Road. It's a great community. The vibe and the buzz and the warmth of the people and the sharing is really, really fun to participate in.
It is. It's quite special. Thank you for having me. I'm really thrilled.
Absolutely. All right. He's Vinny. I'm Jeff. You're watching Work 20XX from Running Remote in Austin, Texas. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening on the podcast. Catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye. Perfect. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Love your enthusiasm.